Beats.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Unhinged Live. As usual, I'm your host, Patrick Hensey, joined today for the Yankees pregame by the man, Derek Lewandowski. You might know him as MYY Recaps. How are we doing this morning, Derek?
Not too bad, man. We got Yankee baseball. Makes me happy.
Yeah, listen, I can't complain too much, even though, chat, you guys know, not big fan of day games. But, Derek, let's start things off today by looking at the Yankees lineup for this afternoon. To be honest, it's not that pretty once again, just because I don't like Rougned Odor in the 4-hole. But we got DJ leading it off, Stanton 2, Judge 3, Odor 4, Urshela 5, Hicks 6, Ford 7, Higgy 8, and Gardner 9. How are we feeling?
I'm liking the Higashioka and Kluber combination. I'm a little bit confused about Odor. This guy's hitting 180 something. He doesn't get on base a ton. I don't see why he's in the 4-hole. Personally, I would put Urshela behind Judge because he's the only one swinging the bat pretty well right now, and it's cool to see Urshela at shortstop. And then I'd probably back up Urshela with Higashioka because he's been swinging the bat pretty good, and then just have a weaker bottom 3 rather than giving more at bats to Odor. But I could be wrong. He might hit 2 home runs today. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, here's my thing. It irks me a little bit when I see guys like Frazier and Torres sitting, especially when we have an off day tomorrow. So like stuff like that doesn't really make sense to me. However, I'm glad to see Stanton back in the lineup after having yesterday off. Derek, I'm not gonna lie. If he comes back today and he doesn't look as locked in as before, I'm gonna be a little bit upset that they sat him yesterday.
Yeah, well, I mean, having a day off can definitely throw off your rhythm, especially with another day off tomorrow. So you're basically getting 2 out of 3 days off to break up that rhythm. So if he has a rough day, now he's got to sit on it for an extra day and just, man, did my streak end? I remember one time in high school, I had started off the season 9 for 13. I was red hot, and I got to first base, and the coach said, "Well, you're red hot. Nobody can get you out right now." And I was like, "Don't jinx it." And then I went on a 1 for 21 streak after that. I'll never forget that in my whole life. Like, damn. I was unconscious, and he was like, he brought it out.
So basically, you're gonna blame him for you not making the majors. That's probably what happened.
Basically, that and my 87 mile an hour fastball was kind of meatballish.
Derek, let me ask you a question. What do you think about Brett Gardner starting? I believe this is the 3rd straight game.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the role of a 4th outfielder, right? To rotate around and give guys a day off. Clint Frazier, I thought, is just starting to swing the bat well, too. He's a young man. You would think that just a day off, a regular day off on Monday would be good enough for him. Why not give Hicks the day off? The guy can't buy a hit. Maybe they're trying to get him going. Honestly, I want to know what you think about Hicks because I'm pretty much over the Aaron Hicks experiment. I'm kind of seeing why they traded him for John Ryan Murphy.
You know, it's so complicated at this point because all offseason and all spring training, myself and like the whole team here, we just spoke about how Aaron Hicks could truly be the X factor in the Yankees lineup this season, right? Just because he's a switch hitter. We saw what he did in 2018. I believe he had 28 home runs. Like, we know when the dude is locked in, he's locked in. Even last year in the playoffs, he was a solid bat every single time coming up. However, it's like this season, this is a completely different Aaron Hicks. This is a guy that doesn't get on base at an astronomical level. And the thing is, even when Hicks used to not hit that well, he used to get on base. So that's kind of what the Yankees use him for. But this year, we've seen nothing from him. And as much as I do want to be confident in him moving forward, it's kind of difficult to see that just because even when he does hit that random solo shot, he'll come up his next 10 at-bats and go like 1 for 10 with 9 strikeouts. That's not the Aaron Hicks that the Yankees need. And I don't know what his issue is at this point. Maybe he's like nursing the injury still. I don't know. I'm just confused.
Well, I did that breakdown of Gleyber Torres, which, by the way, Yankees fans, you're welcome. I fixed Gleyber Torres. He's been hitting ever since that. So I started working on one for Aaron Hicks yesterday just to figure out why he's been so bad. I pulled up some at-bats from last year. I pulled up some at-bats from 2019, and I put him up, and he looks almost identical. The only thing I could think of that on some of his bad swings and on some of his weak ground balls, his leg kick is a little bit more like herky-jerky, and I think it might be moving his head or at least moving his eyes more than usual. So I think he might be starting his leg kick just slightly later, and that's forcing him to go slightly faster with the leg kick, which is causing everything to be late. It's causing his eyes to move. If I'm him, what I would do is just kind of start early, cheat on the fastball for, a few days, maybe just dial it in. If you see spin that's anything other than a fastball, just lay off. It doesn't matter if it's a strike. Just get locked in on the fastball timing for a few days. That's the only thing I could come up with, but I really couldn't come up with enough like that I could visually articulate a good video because it was very inconsistent. I didn't want to lie to my audience and be like, well, this is what he's doing, but it's only sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think about the whole lefty-righty split thing? Because if you look at his split so far this season, he's drastically better as a right-handed hitter. And this is not something that's recent. It's kind of been going on, I think, since 2019, him struggling from the left side of the plate. So I've seen a lot of people calling for him to just become a right-handed hitter. What do you think?
Well, so when the Yankees traded for him, he had an 852, I think, OPS going into that point from the right-hand side of the plate. He had never been much of a left-handed hitter. The Yankees actually turned him into more of a left-handed hitter and taught him to pull balls at Yankee Stadium. And if you watch his two swings, you notice his right-handed swing doesn't have it as an exaggerated of a leg kick. It's a much less exaggerated leg kick. And that's one of the reasons that I thought maybe that's one of the things I was looking at, because his eyes don't move as much from the right side. And also at Yankee Stadium, where he's playing the vast majority of his games, you don't want to pull the ball, right? You don't want to drive the ball towards that 399-foot sign in left field. You want to try and wait back and drive it the other way. So that means that he can wait a little bit longer. He doesn't need to take that big leg kick. And I think that's why he's been a little bit better. If you look at his hits, he's got a lot up the middle. He's got a lot to right field. That's just how it looks to me. But I'm just an armchair umpire and whatever. Scout.
No, same. But that's also my thing as well. I mean, you look at Hicks even in the outfield. He just doesn't seem as comfortable as he used to be. I mean, especially with the arm. I'm sure you remember, bro. Dude. Aaron Hicks used to have one of the best arms in the league. Especially even going back to 2017. The dude had an awesome arm. And now that he's kind of just being more cautious with it, maybe after the Tommy John surgery, it's still not the same Aaron Hicks out there at all.
Yeah, I agree with you. He just doesn't look like the same player. How old is Aaron Hicks? Was he 31, something like that?
He's not that old. He might be 32. Let me pull it up.
I think he's 31.
Quick. He's 31.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're a young guy. You'll get there eventually, but really things do begin to change once you hit 30. Like your knees start to go, your joints start to hurt more. And he is a professional athlete, but I want to know how much golf he's playing. I do, because a golf swing can really mess with your baseball swing. Anybody who's played both sports at the same time can know it's impossible to be playing well at both. And if he values his golf swing a little bit more above his baseball swing right now, which I don't want to make that accusation that he's out there playing golf or whatever. I'm just saying that, it'd be interesting to know how much golf he's playing.
No, yeah. I think we always joke about this, with the guys playing golf and stuff, but this might be a valid concern at this point. If he's actually playing a little bit too much golf, could be messing with his swing. But Derek, moving forward, we have Corey Kluber on the mound today. He's coming off his best start as a Yankee. I believe he went 6 2/3, only gave up 1 earned run. Easily his best start as a Yankee, where he actually gave a bunch of length too. But what are you expecting out of Kluber today?
So against the Tigers, who are not a great offensive team, I expect him to pretty much carve them up again. I'm looking for a very similar outing. I don't know if he'll pitch into the 7th again, especially with the off day tomorrow. The Yankees might choose to get some guys some innings, some bullpen innings. I'm looking for maybe 6 innings, 1 or 2 runs, probably maybe 6 strikeouts, 1 or 2 walks, a pretty standard Corey Kluber outing. I got to say, I've seen enough from Corey Kluber that I think he's going to continue to get better. His stuff has gotten sharper every time out. Even if at length he hasn't gone deep into the game a bunch of times, his stuff has maintained a little bit longer each time. And last time out, I noticed there was a significant increase in the break on his cutter. It was later, it was harder, it was more lateral, and guys just couldn't do anything with it. If he can harness that cutter and harness that breaking ball and throw them for strikes, I'm still a little bit concerned with his command, okay? But if he can harness those pitches and throw them for strikes, I think he's going to be really good. And if he has another really good outing today, that'll just get his confidence going. Let's say he does throw the 6 innings and 1 run. His ERA right now is something like 4.25-ish, something like that. I think it's 4.24. That'll put his ERA somewhere in the mid-3s. Well, it just looks a lot better if you're coming into your next outing with a 3.5 ERA as opposed to a 4.2 something. You're feeling a little bit more like, okay, the weather's heating up, so am I. Yogi Berra said half of this game is 90% mental. I mean, and it's a dumb quote, but it's true. A lot goes into confidence, and that's why I hate this shit with the Yankees, where they don't believe in hot streaks and they don't believe in just momentum, because those things factor in over the short term. And Paul O'Neill said it, if you feel it going into your game, whether it's on the mound or at the plate, it can really generate your results. Like, you can create good results just by having extra confidence. By the way, we got a super chat over here.
Yeah, I see. Shout out to Lori C with the super sticker, $3 super sticker from Lori. I hate how the super sticker doesn't come up on the screen, but like it's a little bit annoying. But shout out to you, Lori. Really do appreciate it. But no, like, call me crazy. I'm kind of more confident in what I've seen from Kluber this season than Taijuan. I think while Taijuan might have shown he has the better stuff, I think Kluber has shown that he can go the distance compared to Taijuan. We have yet to see Jameson Taijuan pitch into the 6th inning so far this season. After 5, the dude's usually done, and it's so frustrating because when the Yankees acquired Jameson Taijuan, I think myself and a lot of other people said that by the end of the season, he's easily going to be the Yankees' number 2 behind Garrett Cole. Right now, the way we're looking at it, the Yankees don't really have that guy that's like solidified himself behind Garrett Cole. Yeah. Obviously, your boy Jordan Montgomery, he's had a handful of good starts, but we just haven't seen the consistency out of him. Kluber, I'd like to see more consistency out of him too. Taijuan, you need more length out of him, and Herman as well. Like, you want to see more than one good start. So I think it's really a competition between just a bunch of mediocrity right now to see who's really going to step up and take that spot behind Cole.
So let's talk about Taijuan, because we just mentioned that after the Tommy John surgery, Aaron Hicks' arm has basically gone to hell, right? I feel like people are not taking into consideration this guy's had 2 of those surgeries, and he's still out there throwing 95 miles an hour. That's impressive in itself. But the Yankees are being extra cautious with him. We saw them take it slow with him at the beginning of the season. They held him out for an extra couple of days. They're giving him an extra day off every now and then. They put in Davy Garcia to kind of move everybody back a day. I have this upcoming podcast with Dan tonight, Dan Rourke, your buddy. And one of the questions that I sent him, like in preparation, was Game 7 of the World Series. Garrett Cole pitched in Game 6 to get you there. Who do you go with? And for me, I would go with Jameson Taijuan, but I would use him as a 3-inning guy. Because to me, for the first 3 innings of the game, his stuff is as good as anybody on the staff. And guys just cannot hit that high spin rate fastball up in the zone. And he's got that incredible curveball. But the problem is he wears down really quickly. Yeah. You saw yesterday, he turned into a pumpkin in the 4th inning. He began to struggle. He worked his way through it because the Tigers can't hit, right? Yeah. But if that was the Rays, they would have hung a 3 spot on him. If that was the Red Sox, they would have hung a 3 or 4 spot on him. So you've got to start looking at Taijuan, especially if he doesn't pitch a couple of 6-7 inning games soon, as a guy who gives you 3 or 4 innings against good teams and maybe 5 innings against bad teams. And on those days, you go to the bullpen a little bit early. I think that's why they got Wandy Peralta, because he's a left-hander. He gives you a little different look, and he's a soft contact guy who generally is pretty efficient with his pitches. So maybe you go with Jameson Taillon for 3 innings, Wandy Peralta for the 4th, maybe the 5th, and then move on into Johnny Lasagna and the rest.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good scenario to think about, just because it's like I mentioned before, the Yankees really don't have that solidified guy behind Cole right now where it'd be like, bang, we're easily going to him. So I'm thinking, obviously, it depends on like how the season would play out moving forward. But I think as of right now, Corey Kluber would probably be my guy. Just because maybe I think, call me crazy, if Kluber struggles maybe after like 2 or 3, then I'd bring Taillon out of the bullpen. Not that crazy to think about. Either Taillon or Sevy out of the bullpen, because I know a lot of people aren't on this train, but I think once Sevy comes back, he could be a weapon out of the bullpen, especially if the rotation is at full strength. So I don't know. But Derek, speaking of podcasts, you're Mr. Freeze today, right? You have the new audio-only podcast, The Freeze, coming out. So it's currently on what? Apple?
It's on Apple. It's on Audible. It's on Stitcher. It's been submitted to Spotify. I've seen some people say that they've accessed it on Spotify. I still don't have it on my app. I know you don't have it on your app, but it'll be on Spotify in a day or two. Basically, I wanted to add the audio element for a couple of reasons. One, people have been peppering me about it in my comments. You know, the YouTube channel has grown almost too quick for me to keep up with. I mean, it started a year ago. We got 12,000 something. And I had done an audio version of it in the beginning and nobody really accessed it, but nobody knew who I was. So I shut it down. I decided not to pay the $50 a month or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I decided now that I've got a little bit of a following and I'm able to secure more interviews and things like that, I can make it a little bit more interesting. So I decided, hey, look, I'll bring it back and just see how it does. But I'm calling it The Freeze, not NY Recaps, because I wanted to get into more general topics. The Freeze is actually for those of you who don't know, it's the facade around Yankee Stadium's upper deck. That's why it's not spelled Freeze. You know,
I was going to ask you because I have no idea what that meant.
Yeah, the Freeze is that archway that goes around the upper deck at Yankee Stadium. It's the thing that Mickey Mantle hit his home run off of the facade. And I was looking at names that would fit with Yankee Stadium, and you know, everything else is taken. Bronx Pinstripes is taken. George's Box, like 314. Everything's taken. I almost called it 408, but that felt like a kind of a jab at 314. I didn't want to do that. And then I almost like just for fun, when I was just like typing names out, I said like also talking Yanks.
That could be a way to go.
Yeah, and I was like, no, I don't think I want any of that war. War with $1 million corporation. Now I like those guys too. So, but I just thought it would be funny. So I landed on the Freeze, and I'm going to be doing different interviews with folks. I'm interviewing Dan Wark tonight. You're going to be on there this week. I'm going to call you up one of these days and try and get you for 30 minutes. I'm going to be having Ron Bloomberg on there as part of that. Brian Hoke is going to be on. I'm going to try and just do more conversations, and hopefully one day we'll move on into current Yankees players and things like that.
Yeah, you know, like something that I don't think a lot of people realize is like, even though we do like these live streams and videos and whatnot, audio only podcasts are so underrated. Like there's so many times where I'll just like find myself like just doing nothing and just listening to an audio only podcast in the background. Just because it's like a completely different environment and a completely different aesthetic, I guess. I don't know. But like, yeah, audio only podcast. Maybe I'll start one eventually. We'll see.
Do it.
Yeah, I think that's how I started off as well. And then I'm kind of like, let's move into the video aspect of it, just because it's more fun, I guess, right? Being able to like interact with live viewers and just seeing the views on YouTube go up and whatnot. But yeah, shout out to you for the audio only podcast coming together. But Derek, I have another question for you, and it's regarding the Yankees lineup. So right now, Luke Voit is expected to come back when? May 11th, I believe, which is about a week and change. But the Yankees lineup, once he does come back, it's pretty interesting because obviously Rougned Odor is no longer going to be batting 4. But personally, I think when Voit comes back, you insert him 5. I really like putting Gio at 4. So the way I would set it up, at least the first 5 anyway, I would do DJ, Stanton, Judge, Gio, Voit. I'm in
total agreement. And that's rare because...
No, it's very rare.
So here's the deal. I love, first of all, Stanton in the number 2 in front of Judge because, and here's why. Stanton is not a guy who takes a ton of pitches. He's a guy who will swing. And so hitting in front of Judge, you're going to have to throw him better pitches. You don't want to walk him, but if you get Judge out, then you don't have to pitch to Stanton. It's basically you're going through that order. You can throw him sliders in the dirt, and if you walk him, you walk him. Then you've got Odor or Gardner, whoever the hell Boone puts at 5 that day or 4 or whatever. But now you're giving Stanton some protection, right? You've got Judge who's really heating up. The only issue is that Stanton can't run at all. So, if he gets on first base, Judge isn't going to knock him in unless he hits a ball out of the ballpark, right? Whereas somebody like Urshela hitting in front of him, might be able to score on a double in the gap. But I just like the idea of forced to pitch to Stanton. So let's go. We're past Stanton and Judge. Now, let's say Judge hits a 2-run home run or Judge hits a double. He gets a lot of extra base hits. Now you've got first base open, right? So if Luke Voigt's right behind you, you just put Luke Voigt right on base. And that's going to happen 30 or 40 times a year. And you're taking the bat right out of Luke Voigt's hand. So I like the idea of having a contact guy in Urshela who's not going to get the walks, the intentional walks. Because even as a pitcher, even if the guy's hitting 300, you feel like you could pitch to Gio Urshela. I mean, who the hell is Gio Urshela? As opposed to the American League home run leader, Luke Voigt. So I think that would be a crafty move, and that's the exact way I would go.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think you described it perfectly. Having a contact guy to kind of split up Judge and Voigt in that sense. But what the Yankees' mentality is, which I don't really understand, it seems like they always need to throw a lefty into that 4-hole, whether if it's Mike Ford or Rougned Odor. It's just not the way that I think that things should work. Just because the guy's a lefty doesn't mean he's a good hitter that should be batting behind Aaron Judge. It just shouldn't happen. But branching off of that, I think what you said before, Stanton in the 2-hole is kind of the perfect spot for him. We've seen ever since he's gotten in the 2-hole, he's become kind of like 2017 Stanton again. Obviously, we haven't seen the power stroke, which I think is going to come eventually. Oh, yeah. But I think all these rocket singles, I mean, every time he puts bat on ball, it's at least 120 miles per hour.
He's going to kill somebody.
No, I know. They can't move him out of the 2-hole. They just can't.
I like this is like there is a non-zero chance every single game that he's going to kill somebody because he hits the ball. The one that hit Tanaka was 112, right? And that thing took like 5.5 minutes to come down. I don't know if you've ever seen the footage from it was shot from the upper deck where somebody hits or Stanton hits it off of Tanaka and the ball goes almost all the way up to the upper deck, in height before it comes back down. I have no idea how he kept his head on. It must have got like a glancing blow, but if he hit a line drive off of somebody's temple at 115 plus, that person's dead or they're never walking again. And he thinks about that. And it worries me. I legitimately feel worried for the pitcher, the way he's swinging the bat right now.
No, I don't think I'd want to be a pitcher to Stanton right now. I'd probably just walk him every single time.
Put up 4 fingers, baby.
Derek, let me ask you a question about today's lineup. The Yankees are going up against who are they going up against today? I'm not sure about any of the Tiger pitchers, to be completely honest with you. But let me pull it up real quick. They are facing Jose Urena. Used to be with the Marlins for a while. So who do you have as a player to watch in today's lineup for the Yankees?
So Urena's a right-handed pitcher, right?
Yeah.
Urena is right-handed pitcher. He's got a 3.77 ERA. He has a 2.16 ERA in 2 starts against the Yankees. Just looking at the matchup so far, it looks like not a huge sample size from anybody other than DJ LeMahieu. He's had 9 at-bats. He's hitting .333. Nobody has taken him deep.
Yeah.
He hasn't faced Mike Ford. I'm going with Mike Ford again because Mike Ford is only hitting 130. And just law of averages. I believe in law of averages. I know a lot of people don't. I don't think the guy's a 100 hitter. I think he's better than that. I think he's going to run into one. And it's just as big and as strong as he is. I think, and he has 2 home runs so far. Just my guess. I'm taking Mike Ford.
This is such a basic selection, but I think I'm taking Aaron Judge. I mean, after his day yesterday, there's kind of no way that you can't take him. Just because I think we're starting to see the rise of MVP Judge right now. Obviously, he had a decent start to the season, and then he sat those 2 days and he came back And all of a sudden, he looks like the same Judge that we saw in 2020 before the injury, just lighting up the baseball, home runs left and right. And Dan Rourke, shout out to Dan, I think he explained it perfectly in a tweet yesterday. Obviously, Mike Trout is the man, right? Just because of his pure consistency. And he's having a ridiculous season this year. I don't think he's going to be able to keep up like a 600 on base percentage throughout the season. But I think Judge and Betts are the only two guys that, when they're at their peak, can go toe-to-toe with Mike Trout in a single season. And I think if Judge can keep up production like we've seen over the past couple of days, he can prove me right with my MVP pick, and Judge can win his second AL MVP this year.
So the thing I like most about Judge lately is that he's hitting these scorching line drives. That means he's right on time, right? That means, and look, when he gets the ball even elevated slightly and he's hitting it as hard as he does, his routine fly balls go 420 feet, right? So he's getting ready to go on one of those runs. I feel like it's almost a given that he's going to erupt, like Mount Vesuvius. Yeah. But that's why I chose Mike Ford. It's more of a challenge to me, I honestly, I feel bad for Danny Sepulveda because she had Judge basically as dead. Like she had him as DOA last week when he got 2 days off. She's caught a lot of flack for that.
She's sticking with it though.
The internet's killing her. Well, I think here's the thing. She doesn't want to be seen as like, oh, I'm just changing my opinion or whatever, because that it looks bad to be like, well, I'm flip-flopping or whatever. But when you get new information, like, you see that the Yankees are doing the load management thing and he's playing well, it's working, then that should reevaluate your opinion, So while I respect her ability to and her willingness to go head to head with all these other podcasts and things like that, I think she's dug herself into a hole from which there might be no escape.
Yeah, it's brutal. Yeah, but listen, Clint Frazier. Listen, I couldn't bring you on and not talk about my guy Clint Frazier. Obviously, like we mentioned, the past couple of days, his at-bats have been a lot better. Just his approach at the plate, he seems more comfortable. Might be due to him changing his stance up a little bit. His front leg seems to be a little bit more open. But he's sitting today for Brett Gardner. Now, I'm not completely opposed to it, but this one thing does irk me, that Brett Gardner is now the Yankees' fourth outfielder. Only because we had Mike Talkman, who I think was the perfect fourth outfielder. I think he would have been perfect to fill in for Aaron Hicks when he's struggling, for Clint Frazier when he's struggling. And Mike Talkman just never got the opportunity in the Bronx. I sound like a broken record at this point. Mike Talkman's gone, I know. But it just frustrates me beyond belief that now when Clint Frazier gets a day off, we have to sit through 4 Brett Gardner at-bats.
Here's the issue. What if somebody gets hurt now? Like, what if Frazier or Gardner or Hicks get hurt? You don't have a starting quality outfielder to plug in there. Like Talkman, I would have felt comfortable going to battle for a month with Mike Talkman. If Hicks, has his annual, 2 weeks on the IL with a hamstring or oblique or whatever, or a month, I don't know who you're going to put in there. I don't want to see Gardner every day. And if you do have to put in Gardner every day, who becomes your fourth outfielder? Estevan Florial, a guy who's making his Double-A debut today, or whenever the opening day for Double-A is. I think that was a mistake. I think trading Mike Talkman was a big mistake. I think they're going to rue that mistake when he plays well in San Francisco. I do like Wandy Peralta's changeup. I think he could be a valuable player, but I think that was an overpay. It makes me wonder if there was something clubhouse related, right? He seemed like a good guy, but maybe, do you remember when Melky Cabrera and Robinson Cano were like best friends?
Yes.
And they traded Melky because like he was distracting Cano. Maybe Mike Talkman was like playing too many video games with Gleyber Torres. I don't know what it is, but
I mean, to think about it on like the flip side of things, I could see it being like a frustration out of Mike Talkman, maybe requesting a trade, him being unhappy in the organization, looking at himself like, look, like I kind of carried this team in 2019 when everyone went on the shelf, and here I am as the Yankees' 5th outfielder. And they kind of viewed him as the 6th outfielder in the offseason when they acquired Jay Bruce as well. I get those two names mixed up so often. It's so weird. But
dude, this has been a great talk. Like I honestly want to steal this audio for the freeze and put it as like, because This has been a
Go for it.
fantastic conversation because we're hitting on so many things that I just have such a bone with the Yankees about. I really felt like Mike Talkman might have requested a trade because if you look at him, he's about 30 years old too. He's a young man. He's only got so much time to make money, right? You're in these professional sports to make money. If he has, a down year, ends up back in AAA with the Yankees or whatever, he's not going to make any money. He's going to end up, he's 35 years old and he doesn't have, his major league, nest egg that he's built because he's making $400,000 instead of a couple million, right? That he could make. So it would not surprise me if he was like, look, I deserve to play every day. I feel like I'm an everyday player. If you find a way to trade me, do it. His agent could have said that. His agent wants to get fucking paid too. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut. But like, I get that like he's a fourth outfielder, but I really feel like the Yankees could have given him more playing time. Like
easily.
On the days that Judge was out, don't play Gardner. Play freaking Mike Talkman.
Yeah, good for him. I mean, if he did request a trade, good for him because it was evident once they signed Brett Gardner that Mike Talkman was not going to be getting that fourth outfield spot. He had to fight his ass off in spring training just to make it on the bench. So listen, shout out to him. I hope he does very well in San Fran, and it's unfortunate to see how the Yankees misused him. But Ulysses brings up a pretty solid comment here. Could Giancarlo just play the outfield? He used to do that in Miami. And this is something I've been arguing for so long now because in spring training, Stanton wants to play the outfield just so he could have some reps there in case during the season they want to use him. And they wouldn't even put him there in spring training. I think the idea that Giancarlo Stanton is like this fragile butterfly that if he plays the outfield, he's done for the season is a little bit ridiculous. Simply because he was a great fielder in Miami. He played the field in the entirety of 2018 with the Yankees when he was healthy all year. And I don't think with the Yankees so far, any of his injuries have been from playing the outfield. So I think if there's a day where you want to DH Judge, there's no reason why Stanton can't play left, Stanton can't play right. It just messes up the lineup so much more because, like I mentioned, if you do want to give Judge a DH day, you have to bench Stanton.
So have you seen Stanton run the bases this year, though? He's really slow this year. I don't know if he's not running full out or maybe he's got something lingering that he's playing through.
Yeah,
but the guy looks like he's dragging a piano. He is so slow right now. He got thrown out at home plate by 30 feet the other day. It was awful.
Yeah.
I would love to see him play the outfield, but not if he's struggling to run. Look, the way he's playing at DH, I'm very content with just letting him take his cuts and keep hitting the ball 115 miles an hour. And I think that's what the Yankees are doing. They're just like, hey, let's keep this guy healthy. If you get him hot, he can stay hot for a while, hopefully, as long as we don't sit him too many times. And just let him rake until the season is out. So we'll see. I'd like to see him in the outfield, but not if he can't run.
I'm gonna be honest. Like, if we don't see Stanton in the outfield this season, I think we're never gonna see him there again.
I agree.
Simply because it'll just be way too long. And the fact he's only 30, 31.
Something like that.
And he's already a full-time DH is kind of crazy. I mean, you look at full-time DHs across the league. They're really just older guys who can't play the field anymore, like just incapable of doing so. Nelson Cruz, JD Martinez, Edwin Encarnacion, if you want to throw him into that boat too. But I just don't view Giancarlo Stanton as a full-time DH this early in his career. And the fact that he has much longer to go with the Yankees too and is being paid so much money, the fact that they don't trust him in the field is a little bit concerning to me. I don't know.
So if you think about the guys that you mentioned, Nelson Cruz and the like, Stanton hits the ball harder than those guys. And those guys put up monster numbers, and they're huge parts of their teams, their respective teams, right? And so I just think that's what the Yankees are going for. They're going for like an upgraded version of those guys, which is weird because for the longest time, Brian Cashman wanted to keep that DH spot open as like a guy to give people a spot to give guys a partial day off.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just a weird, I feel like Brian Cashman sometimes makes moves without thinking them through. I would have never traded for Giancarlo Stanton because I felt like he was a redundant player. And the Yankees were just getting over the Jacoby Ellsbury contract. And I'm like, whoo, finally got that off the books, baby. And then it's like, oh my God, you're getting it. And then when he started getting hurt, it was everybody was like, okay, this guy is going to be another Ellsbury contract. But he's stayed healthy this season. I don't want to trash talk the guy too much because he's doing a great job this year, and I'm really happy with how he's playing lately. I do wish he could play the outfield more, but hey, look, it is what it is. And back to Brian Cashman, he just needs to maybe think things through, give things a second thought before seeing a big name and being like, let me go get that guy. Let me get, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, I think the way the Yankees analyzed that Stanton acquisition was two things, actually. One, they missed out on Ohtani, so they kind of wanted to make a big splash still, and Stanton was that guy. And number two, three things, actually. Number two is that I don't think that they acquired him thinking he was going to be a full-time DH. I think that they were assuming he was going to be an outfielder for them and kind of play left, and Judge was going to play right, and everyone was going to be happy. But number three is that I think they viewed him as a little bit of a discount compared to an outfielder that they would acquire the following offseason, and Bryce Harper. They knew Bryce Harper was going to be demanding a lot of money, and if they didn't acquire Stanton, they were probably going to be acquiring Harper. And obviously, compared to Harper, Stanton has a very light contract. So I think that was their reasoning.
Yeah, Harper would have been the guy I went with, and we've talked about this before. I just like his swing in Yankee Stadium. I like that he plays hard, he plays defense. He's not a guy who would allow you to make him an everyday DH, right? He's got that Michael Jordan in him, that competitive thing that I'm not sure Stanton has that. And that's not a knock on Stanton. Not a lot of people have that. I think Judge has it, but I don't think Stanton has it. I think DJ LeMahieu has it. I think Clint Frazier has it, but Aaron Hicks doesn't have it, right?
Garrett Cole has it times 10.
Garrett Cole is like the pitching equivalent of Michael Jordan right now. But does Jordan Montgomery have it? You know, I mean, not everybody is the same mentally, right?
Yeah.
Some guys get by on just skill or whatever. But Bryce Harper was one of those guys that doesn't want to just beat you. He wants to decimate you and piss on your ashes. Like, that's what he wants to do. And
that's a great way of putting it. No, exactly.
And that's who I would have gone with. And I was supremely disappointed that winter when he ended up elsewhere. I knew it wasn't going to happen because they had Stanton. Do you think that Stanton could – let me just throw this team out there and just see if we could work it out. Do you think Stanton would accept or be accepted by the Angels? Because they're going to lose Pujols, who's eating up – he basically makes what Stanton makes.
Yeah.
He's older. They've had that, kind of setup. And Stanton is a guy who needs days off, obviously. They have Ohtani, who's a part-time DH and also a part-time pitcher. He doesn't DH every day. I think Stanton could be a good fit out there. He's a California guy. If I'm the Yankees and Stanton hits 35 to 45 home runs this year, maybe I'm giving a call out west and I'm saying, hey, look, Stanton's making $25 million from us. Or I think he's making about $22 million from here on out.
Mm.
We'll eat $5 million. So you're paying $17 million, which is a very reasonable price for a guy who's going to put butts in the seats in LA. Because, if Stanton's, in the lineup, he might hit a ball 500 feet on any given day.
Yeah.
I'd pay $25 to go see that.
Yeah.
Right?
It's not like they have like a superstar on that team already. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, yeah. But I mean, you put Giancarlo Stanton in front of Mike Trout.
No, sure. Yeah.
And it's just like Stanton in front of Judge. And then you back him up with Ohtani on days where Ohtani DHs and has to sit out. That's still a good lineup. I
mean, thinking about it realistically, do I think it's going to happen? Probably not. I think Stan's a Yankee for the rest of his career. But like, if you're thinking metaphorically, I think it's possible. Only because the Yankees did have contact with the Angels this offseason regarding Aaron Judge. I don't know how brief those discussions were, but apparently they happened. So maybe if the Yankees want to contact LA or if LA wants to contact Yankees about Giancarlo Stanton, I think it would be a perfect fit for them. Just because they still have Justin Upton, right? Playing left. I don't know how much longer he's on contract
with their lineup
for
right now. Yeah, I think they do have Upton, but he might be a free agent pretty soon too.
Yeah, that's exactly my thing. So I think if LA can guarantee Stanton that he's going to be like at least playing the outfield sometimes, I think that might be the key for him. Like you mentioned, he's a California guy. So going back to California, having the opportunity to play the outfield, which the Yankees will not do. The only thing that I think he might not want is it won't be that much of a winning situation for him there. And I know you said like you don't really see Stan as having like that Jordan mentality, like that killer instinct. I still think he wants to win a World Series. And I think that's part of the reason why when he chose his 4 teams, I believe, they were all teams that were highly competitive. I believe this was back in 2016, 2017. So I believe it was the Cardinals, Dodgers, Yankees, Red Sox.
No, so it was either the Yankees or the Dodgers.
Okay.
And he actually turned down trades to both St. Louis and San Francisco.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
And both of those teams were winning teams, and that made me question Giancarlo right away. It's like, do you want to go from Miami to a winner, or do you want to just go be a star in a big city, right?
Yeah.
And to me, it was like he was willing to lose in Miami in a big superstar city where you can play and have fun and, bang supermodels versus go to a baseball town like St. Louis. Mark McGwire went to St. Louis and lit the town on fire. It changed baseball. And he did so well in front of that. He went from Oakland, which is, you're getting 10,000 people in the seats, to 50,000 every night rooting him on. He became Big Red. He hit 70 home runs. I think Stanton could have done that. Yeah. I think he could have done that in St. Louis, but he's a Yankee, and we're just going to have to live with it.
Yeah, listen, I'm not complaining about it. Stanton's obviously a great hitter, as we've seen this season. He carried us in the playoffs last year. Obviously, none of this is coming from us not liking Giancarlo. Right. I don't know about you, but I love him. I think he's awesome. But it's more so like thinking of hypothetical situations that could have happened.
I love Stanton, but I love a well-constructed roster more.
Same. I think that's a great way of putting it. But Derek, we ventured off so far into the deep end today. Going back to the game today, do we have any score predictions?
I'm gonna say 6-3 Yanks.
Okay. Yeah, I like it. I think I'm gonna go one run lower. I think we're gonna win 5-2. Only because I think most of our runs are gonna come off of the Tigers bullpen today. I think Urena is gonna pitch a solid game, just because one, the Yankees really haven't seen much of him, and two, he just seems like the type of guy who's gonna come into Yankee Stadium and pitch well. I don't know. I could be wrong, but yeah. That is going to wrap things up for today's pregame. Derek, thank you for joining us today. Everyone, be sure to go check out his new audio-only podcast, The Freeze, Apple, and just about everywhere besides Spotify currently. So go check it out.
Spotify soon.
Yeah, Spotify soon. And we will see you guys for the post-game today, directly after the game. So be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you do know when we go live after today's game. You guys know the deal. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe. Let's go, Yankees. Peace.
Appreciate it.